Hi everyone, I'm Mary Rains and this is my Module 1 video. A couple of things about myself, a little personal background. I was born and raised in Michigan, so I actually went to Central Michigan University where I went into secondary education with a focus in history and English. I worked right after college. I moved to Great Bend, Kansas. I taught 9th, 11th, and 12th grade English there. In 2017, I was then married to my husband, Reed, and that is why I moved to Hutchinson, Kansas. So I've worked at Hutchinson. This is actually, I just ended my 4th year there. And so I work at HMS 7, which is our middle school. And then I listed some extracurricular activities that I do. So OCR Club. I am the STUCO sponsor, social committee president, and I'm also the HNEA building representative. Some hobbies, if you like that kind of thing, are running, cooking, reading, writing, and definitely hanging out with family and friends. So a couple of demographics that I just wanted to point out to you guys so you can get a little bit of an idea of what Hutchinson, Kansas is and my school as well. The first thing for Hutchinson, Kansas, this is our current population, so a little over 40,000. The one statistic that I really want to point your attention to is the 14.4% of our population lives in poverty, which to me actually was very surprising when I found this out because just knowing where my students come from, I definitely thought that would be a lot higher. In fact, I would say that when looking at our school, this is probably the only statistic that doesn't mirror or mimic our town. That a lot of the kids that we see at our school are in poverty or would be very close to that line. So HMS 7 is completely 7th grade. We normally have about 340 to 375 kids. Um, and so we have a pretty big, I would say semi-big population and big classes that come through, but only 7th grade. And then I also think it's important to note that with kids being in poverty and just some of the situations and experiences that I know my kids have had, that their reading scores and their grade level performance is severely behind. So we actually have 52% of kids that are in tier 3, which means they are 2 or more grade levels behind. But I would say of those 52%, probably 40% of those kids were either a 3rd grade, so 4 grade levels behind or below. And that might actually be a little bit higher. What is action research? Basically, action research is where you take action. You come up with an area that you would like to improve on or grow on, or something that you would like to find the answer to. And then you do some research, whether that be going out and searching for research that's been done on the topic, or that could be research that you're doing in your own class where you're trying things out and trying new strategies and stuff like that. And then you reflect on that. And so action research is really just about taking action and really planning out and thinking about what is the best way that I can teach my students or my students can be successful in my classroom. And as teachers, this really helps us improve our own practices as well. The 4 main types of action research, pretty self-explanatory, I think. Individual is 1 person, collaborative is 2 or more people, school-wide is all staff, and then district is all schools, all staff. What is the goal of action research? To sum it up, honestly, I just thought it was very cool how Calhoun did this. But to paraphrase what is on the slide, the goal of action research is for teachers to become better teachers and for students to be more successful. And I even put that down at the bottom. All sources pointed to this as the goal, to help improve student success and to help teachers to improve their own practices. So I think those are the 2 main ones. What are the main steps of action research? There's 4 of them, and I cited a couple of sources down at the bottom, but there were several different ways that these steps were outlined, and this was just kind of a paraphrase of all of that. So number 1 is planning. You inquire about something, test something, read literature on what area you're looking at, and then you design how you would like to go about and implement this. Action is basically the experimentation where you're actually doing what the research has told you to do, and then you're collecting the data to see if that was accurate or not. Analysis is to basically organize the data and look for trends. So again, see if it's working or how you can improve upon it. And then the conclusion is to share your research with the world or reflect on your own practices. So basically to share your findings. And I added these images on here because for me, as I was going through and reading, it just seemed like the action research is a very continuous cycle. And so all of these kind of show that movement where it's not like it just stops after you reflect on it or at the conclusion. You just keep going. What is the difference between action research and traditional research? There's three main areas. The first area is that it is about a specific topic. The second is that it is some of the ideas and strategies and practices that you can come up with might be outside of the box and might be very different from what we've done in the past as far as education goes. And then the last one I thought was the most interesting or most stark difference is that teachers are actually very active participants in this, whereas normally when you have somebody doing research, it is somebody doing research about other people or on another area, whereas with the teachers, they are actually participating. Um, what are the common problems associated with action research? Teachers' willingness. It's going to take some coaxing for some teachers to want to get into the system. The lack of time, so planning and just figuring things out. Limitations or lack of resources. Maybe the data and the action research is telling us that something is going to be very beneficial for our kids, but if we can't, like in our district or in our school, afford that or can't get them those resources, or the district can't get the teachers the resources, that's also could be a problem. Um, the knowledge base that somebody would have to actually look at all of the research and understand what it is saying. And then the last one, which the sources kind of touched on this, but this was also just me personally knowing that, knowing how I am and knowing how some of my colleagues are. But self-reflection is sometimes difficult. And so if you were going to do action research, you would really have to be looking at what you were doing and what practices you were using. And that's not necessarily a negative thing, but that could also be hard. That could be a problem that could come up. Evaluate your current teaching practices and then defend your response. Uh, how could action research help improve your teaching? Action research basically could help improve my teaching by focusing on areas that I need to grow in, because everybody needs to grow on in an area or areas. It would help me identify practices that have been proven to be effective and those that have not. And so it would really help me with giving me some good tools for my toolbox. And then it would also help foster collaboration between myself and other teachers, especially because I'm very much a social person when it comes to that kind of stuff. I need to work with a group and need to bounce ideas off. And so I think if I did a lot of action research, I would definitely choose to be more collaborative or more school-wide instead of individual. But who knows? Maybe I could be different. Um, what does the research say about the success of action research and its impact on student learning and teacher performance? Already went over it. Students improve and they learn and they grow and they are successful, and then teachers also improve in many different areas by doing this. Their teaching strategies, their mindset, and the collaboration with other teachers, just to name a few. My own personal or professional ideas on action research. Have you or your school conducted action research in the past? I said yes and no because I actually didn't know what it was called, and we didn't do it so purposefully as I would think that you would need to do action research or implement action research. But we have definitely done some things where we've come together as a whole staff, or as my department and I have gone together, or something like that. And we have chosen an area to really focus on and try to grow on and see how we could improve in that area. That being said, I would say that mostly my school and I are more still in the traditional mindset when I do research, or when we do research, it's really just to find out what's out there. We don't really take it to the action step. I have a couple of examples of how I think that this has played out in my school and in my classroom. So the grading practices in our building, we had like a book study that we did all together, had a pretty significant group together where we read into and really looked into, okay, what are the best practices as far as administering grades, and we really collaborated on it. So it was very collaborative. It wasn't necessarily whole school at this point, but grading practices is one of those things that I would say this was probably the closest to action research that I've been involved in. Uh, in my class, I know I teach an intervention class, and I definitely, because of the levels of our kids, did not go to school to teach like phonics or for phonemic awareness to kids. I wasn't trained on that, I should say, and so I have had to do a lot of research and data collection on what are the best practices, what are the best ways to teach this, and so I've done that as well. And then last but not least, we're just starting our redesign process in our school. And so I actually am going to be on the committee. I'm one of like the three that are going to head up like the subcommittees, and I'm very excited to do that. But I could see if we were trained in action research that that could actually really help us in the redesign process. And then just real short, but how does it compare to what you have learned from the research? It is very comparable. Enough said. How does this support the educational success and well-being of each student and adult regarding these standards? Adults, I feel like I've said this before, but adults, it really just helps promote the best of what we have to offer, and students, it also helps them receive the best of what we have to offer and hopefully be very successful. Course learning correlation. So basically, I'm just going to read this to you guys. Action-based research promotes the success of students and the effectiveness of teachers. Action research allows for teachers to reflect on their instructional practices, their use of technology, programs that they are using, and much more. Action research also helps teachers, departments, schools, and districts to have a focus, so more like a mission, to improve and grow in specific areas. This was relevant, or these standards were relevant to this assignment and to my learning because it's what I need to be doing in my class. So, or I would think that we all need to be doing it in our classes, or some variation of it. And so I thought it was very relevant. And then the reflection piece of how will I use this, or use this as a leader. I already kind of talked about being a part of the redesign team. I definitely think that it would be very beneficial for us to be trained on this and to use this as kind of like a system or a program that we're going to do when we all come together. And so that then concludes my presentation for you guys. Thing I guess is that I really look forward to working with all of you this summer, and yeah, can't wait to work with you guys.